Carl Gustav Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, spent his life exploring the hidden depths of the human mind. His theories of archetypes, the collective unconscious, individuation and shadow work have influenced psychology, literature, philosophy, and even spirituality. Jung believed that human beings are shaped not only by their own experiences but also by the buried memories, traumas, and archetypes of generations before them. In this vast web of unconscious influences, it is easy to lose sight of where our pain ends and where someone else's begins. One of the most profound insights attributed to Jung is the idea that when you stop carrying their pain, everything changes. At first glance it sounds simple: stop holding on to what is not yours. But beneath those words lies a deep truth about personal responsibility, psychological freedom, and transformation. Many of us carry the emotional weight of parents, partners, or even entire communities. We identify with their wounds, replay their struggles, and confuse their burdens for our own. Jung's statement reminds us that liberation begins the moment we set down what never belonged to us. This video explores Jung's insight in depth by examining his psychological framework, the dynamics of carrying others' pain, the role of empathy and boundaries, the impact of family trauma, and the transformative power of letting go. We can understand why everything changes when we release what is not ours. Drawing on Jungian psychology, modern therapeutic practices, and spiritual traditions, we will see how this act of release leads to individuation, authentic relationships, and even societal healing. 1. Understanding Jung's psychological framework. To grasp the meaning of Jung's insight, we first need to understand the foundations of his psychology. Unlike Freud, who emphasized childhood development and sexual drives, Jung believed the psyche was a vast system influenced by both the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The personal unconscious contains repressed memories, forgotten experiences, and unresolved conflicts from an individual's life. The collective unconscious contains archetypes, universal patterns, and images inherited from humanity's shared history. When Jung spoke of carrying pain, he often referred to the way these unconscious forces shape us. A person might feel guilt or fear without knowing its origin, because it comes not from their own actions but from a family legacy or cultural wound. For example, the child of a war survivor might carry anxiety and vigilance without ever experiencing war themselves. Another key concept is projection. Jung argued that people project disowned aspects of themselves, both good and bad, onto others. Sometimes, we even absorb other people's projections, carrying the pain they do not want to face. This creates confusion. What is mine, and what is theirs? Jung's ultimate goal for each individual was individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating unconscious material into consciousness. Individuation requires discernment. We must recognize what belongs to us, integrate it, and release what does not. 2. The weight of carrying others' pain. Carrying others' pain is both common and costly. Many people unconsciously take on the suffering of parents, partners, friends, or even strangers. This can happen in subtle ways. A daughter feels responsible for her mother's depression. A partner absorbs their spouse's anger. A friend internalizes another's despair. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion, resentment, and identity loss. Psychologically, carrying others' pain often arises from enmeshment, the blurring of boundaries where one person's emotions become fused with another's. Children growing up in dysfunctional families are especially vulnerable. If a parent is overwhelmed with grief, a child might try to carry that grief, believing it will help. In reality, it only stunts the child's development. The cost is high. Carriers of others' pain often struggle with burnout, emotional energy drained by burdens that are not theirs, resentment, unconscious anger at being forced into a role they never chose, identity confusion, difficulty knowing who they truly are, apart from others' struggles, stunted growth, limited ability to pursue their own life path. Jung's insight cuts directly into this dynamic. Once you recognize the weight you carry is not yours, you can put it down. And when you do, everything shifts. 3. Jung and the concept of the shadow. A central element of Jungian psychology is the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we repress, deny, or disown. These can be negative traits like anger or selfishness, but they can also be positive qualities like strength or creativity that we have learned to suppress. The shadow often interacts with the pain of others. Sometimes we carry their pain because it mirrors something in our shadow. For example, a person who has repressed their own anger may attract angry people and feel compelled to carry their rage. Similarly, someone who denies their own grief may unconsciously hold on to another's sadness. Shadow work, the practice of recognizing and integrating these disowned parts, is one way to release others' pain. Jung taught that by confronting the shadow, we reclaim our own energy and stop mistaking others' wounds for our own. This process is liberating, because it allows us to see clearly, this is mine, and this is not mine. 4. The role of empathy and boundaries. Empathy is one of humanity's greatest strengths, but without boundaries, it becomes a trap. Jung valued empathy as a bridge to understanding others, but he warned that identification with another's pain can erode individuality. Healthy empathy says, I feel your pain, but I know it is yours. Unhealthy empathy says, I feel your pain, therefore it must be mine. The difference lies in boundaries. Boundaries are psychological lines that separate self from other. They allow us to care deeply without drowning. Jung believed individuation requires boundaries. Otherwise, we become entangled in other people's unconscious material and fail to develop our own. To stop carrying others' pain, one must set boundaries. This may involve saying no, withdrawing from toxic dynamics, or refusing to internalize another's suffering. Far from being selfish, this is a path to authenticity. Only when we know where we end and another begins can we live truthfully. 5. Family systems and generational trauma. Families are powerful transmitters of pain. Jung understood this through his concept of the collective unconscious, but modern psychology has deepened the idea with research on generational trauma. Studies show that trauma can leave biological imprints that are passed down through DNA, a field known as epigenetics. A grandparent's trauma can influence the stress responses of their grandchildren. Beyond biology, families transmit trauma through silence, stories, and behaviors. Children often absorb this pain without choice. They become the carriers of unresolved grief, shame, or fear. Jung might say they are entangled with the archetypal energies of the family shadow. But when one person recognizes this dynamic and refuses to carry it, a cycle is broken. The family's burden begins to dissolve. This is why therapists often describe one member of a family system as the cycle breaker. By putting down inherited pain, They change not only themselves but the generations that follow. 6. Liberation through letting go. What happens when you stop carrying others' pain? The answer, as Jung suggests, is transformation. Psychological release. Freed from burdens that are not theirs, individuals experience lightness, clarity, and renewed energy. Identity restoration. They rediscover who they are, apart from others' wounds. Emotional freedom. Instead of living under guilt or obligation, they can pursue joy and authenticity. This liberation aligns with Jung's concept of individuation. By laying down what does not belong to us, we move closer to becoming whole. We integrate what is ours and return the rest to its rightful place. 7. Case studies and examples. To see Jung's insight in action, let's consider some examples. Literary example: the myth of Atlas. In Greek mythology, Atlas was condemned to carry the heavens on his shoulders. This image of endless burden resonates with the psychological experience of carrying others' pain. When Atlas is finally relieved, he is free. The myth reflects the human need to recognize when a burden is not ours to carry. Clinical example: Jung's patients. Jung often treated patients who carried the unresolved traumas of their families. One patient, for instance, experienced crippling guilt despite having done nothing wrong. Through analysis, Jung traced this guilt to a parent's unresolved shame. When the patient recognized this, the guilt lifted. Modern example: family constellation therapy. A therapeutic method inspired by Jungian thought is family constellation work, where participants identify hidden family dynamics. Often, clients discover they are carrying grief for ancestors. By symbolically returning the grief, they experience profound relief. These examples show that Jung's insight is not abstract. It plays out in real lives with transformative results. 8. The spiritual dimension. Jung was not only a psychologist but also a spiritual thinker. He believed the psyche was rooted in something larger than the individual, and he often drew on religious and mystical traditions. Spiritually, carrying others' pain can be seen as a form of attachment or clinging. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from attachment, including attachment to what is not ours. Christianity speaks of bearing one's own cross, but not assuming the cross of others. In indigenous traditions, healing often involves returning lost or misplaced energy to its rightful owner. When you stop carrying others' pain, it is not only a psychological shift but a spiritual rebirth. You reclaim your soul, and you give others the chance to reclaim theirs. 9. The ripple effect. Relationships and society. The transformation does not stop at the individual. When you stop carrying others' pain, your relationships change. In families, roles shift. The rescuer steps back, allowing others to take responsibility. In friendships, dynamics become more balanced. In romantic relationships, authenticity replaces codependency. On a societal level, if enough individuals stop carrying inherited trauma, entire communities heal. Wars, oppression, and injustices leave wounds that echo across generations. By refusing to carry these burdens unconsciously, people create space for justice, reconciliation, and peace. Jung believed that healing individuals contributes to healing the collective. Every act of release ripples outward. 10. Practical pathways to stop carrying others' pain. How then do we stop carrying others' pain? Jungian and modern methods provide tools. Shadow work, journaling, dream analysis, and active imagination help uncover what is truly ours and what is not. Therapy. working with a therapist to untangle enmeshment and generational trauma. Boundaries, practicing the art of saying no and recognizing emotional ownership. Mindfulness, observing emotions without identifying with them. Ritual, symbolic acts such as writing a letter to release inherited pain can be powerful. Most importantly, courage is required. Letting go often triggers guilt or fear. Families may resist when one member refuses to carry the burden. But as Jung would argue, individuation requires standing firm in authenticity, even when others disapprove. Conclusion. Carl Jung's statement, "When you stop carrying their pain, everything changes," captures a profound truth about human psychology and growth. We are often weighed down by burdens that are not ours, family trauma, projections, and the unresolved grief of others. Carrying this pain distorts identity, drains energy, and blocks individuation. But when we recognize and release what is not ours, we experience transformation. We reclaim our identity, restore our energy, and enter into authentic relationships. The ripple effect extends to families, communities, and even society. Jung believed the goal of life is individuation, the process of becoming whole. This path requires discernment, to integrate what belongs to us and to return what does not. By doing so, we not only free ourselves but also offer others the chance to carry their own growth. When you stop carrying their pain, everything changes, because you finally begin to live your own life.